I spent my whole life in the church and kind of feel like, I don't want to say I have nothing to show for it, but I don't even have the knowledge to argue with somebody about it. So.
What's up, everybody? This is Lisa Fields, the founder and president of the Jude 3 Project, and I'm so excited because we have season 2 of Why Don't Go. Now, if you've been tracking with us for any amount of time, you know that we have a very popular series that we started last year called Why Don't Go. And the purpose of Why Don't Go is to sit down with young adults to discuss why they left the church. And the first part, we just love to listen to them. I feel like listening is an act of love, and we can't be good apologists if we're not good listeners. So the first part of this series, I'll just be listening to them for 4 episodes. And then we'll have Q&A where they'll get to ask me and my co-host Rasul Berry some hard-hitting questions about church and the faith. Season 2 is located in the beautiful city of Washington, D.C. I know you're going to enjoy the conversation we have with young professionals about why they no longer go to church. I hope you enjoyed the first 2 episodes of the discussion. Here's episode 3.
When we think about leaving church, sometimes people think if you left church, you left Christianity, you left God. Those things are synonymous for a lot of people. Do you still consider yourself a Christian even though you're no longer in the church? Why or why not?
Absolutely. I am. I don't go to church the way I used to. I'm definitely far removed from that. But I still have a lot of friends in the church. So I'm the holiday goer, right? Mother's Easter Day, Christmas. The pastor's anniversary who raised you. So, still go. I still get in the $100 lines when I go. I still participate in all of it. But I am still very much a Christian. It's a large part of who I am. It has influenced my approach to life. It's influenced my approach to my career. It's influenced my approach to how I treat my staff. I'm 29 years old, right? And I am chief of staff for our largest city in the state. And I attribute a lot of that ability to be resilient, to have grit, to push my own passion to sort of everything I got from the church. I still read. When I go to church and the pastors recognize me and they need help at the altar, I'm still right there at the altar, just trying to give my light to someone else. I'm still very much a Christian, a believer of God. I'm not religious. I am so much more spiritual than I have been before because I've seen it all. Like I said, grew up Jehovah's Witness, went Baptist, went Pentecostal, went Seventh Day, Sabbath keeper. I got a Star of David tattooed on my leg, right? Have it all. Recite the 10 Commandments at sunset on Friday, right? But I still think about what Matthew 22 talks about and how you have to love your neighbor as yourself. I still love God. That's his first and greatest, but the second is like unto it, right? And you start to love your neighbor. It's just my expression is different. And so I'm still very much into the church because I felt like a lot of the church, they skipped over Corinthians, where they talked about where you assemble together, but we don't have our own factions and we are taking in people. They started to become cliquish. They started to have factions. I wasn't down for all that. Like, that's not how I roll. And so I felt like I could do more outside, but it's still very much based in church. Like I said, I'm ordained, so I can eulogize, I can marry. I'm doing 3 marriages alone this year. So still very much a Christian, still very heavily reliant on the will of God, but it's rooted and grounded in, what I talked about earlier, his mountains, like the 7 mountains of God and the influence I have in my sphere, in my space, and how I utilize that.
Very much still a Christian. I mean, I driving down to DC, listening to gospel music, and Sunday mornings I'm usually there's between 2 churches that I'm faithful to on Sunday on YouTube. Like, so,
YouTube Baptist Church.
Right, YouTube, so, I still try to, and if I don't hear, if I don't on a Sunday, I'm busy or something, I go back to, throughout the week, I make sure that, there are certain ministers that I really, gravitate towards. So I'll listen for that word. And then locally, there's still churches that I'll visit. It's still so much a part of who I am because it's who I am. And so, praying and reading the word, all those things have become more relevant and more important in my life now because I'm not doing it through the lens of these rules or this person or this pastor or this, denomination. I'm doing it because I want to have a relationship with God. So yeah, absolutely. I think, and to his point, I think it's moved me professionally in a different manner when, working because I've also worked in government and working in the United States Senate in particular. And I always tell this story. I remember being in the car with the United States Senator that I worked with at the time. And out of all the people in my office, I was usually the one that took him to church. Like if there was some kind of outreach in the community, it was me that was going to go. And it was me that he was going to say, what's that scripture, that I should, and I would be the one, okay, you should say this. And there was several times where he would get in the car and I would be like, you all right? And he'd be like, I just, it's a lot. I'm like, I'll pray for you. A United States Senator. Who does that? And who has that level of access? And who, and that's only a door that God could open. And that's just as important as standing up in front of someone in a pulpit screaming and hollering at them. So I take God wherever I go in every setting. And it's not necessarily at church, but I'm still moving and looking to God for where I should go. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah. For me, I'm not sure. I still pray. I still read the Bible. It's different because I'm not like signing text and time for me to do it. I'm just so, I guess, thirsty for a relationship with God that, I just read to get to know him a little bit better. But the stuff that I do does align with Christianity. So it's like, yeah, I guess you would say I'm a Christian, but also the other side is like, I don't really want to be called a Christian. So it's like, I don't know. I'm still figuring that part out. So.
I'm a little where she is. I'm just like, I don't know. I 1000% believe in God. In terms of Christianity, it's a matter of what, now that I'm getting older, it's like, I'll be honest, I don't open my Bible. Hope my mom doesn't see this. But I mean, I don't. I'm kind of just like with it in terms of Christianity, because I don't know if I'm a Baptist or Pentecost. I don't know what any of that means. So it kind of makes me feel a little question things because it's like I spent my whole life in the church and kind of feel like I don't want to say I have nothing to show for it, but I don't even have the knowledge to argue with somebody about it. So I don't know. I guess that's my thing on it. I don't know. And I guess finding out, because again, you spend all your life in church learning about Christianity. So for me to even be like, I want to know more about Christianity, it's like, what is there to know? Like, if I'm trying to find God, it's just like, I don't know. Could I find that in another religion? Like, that's where I'm at with it.
Wow. It's a heavy question. I couldn't help but draw a parallel between narcissistic parents and a certain version of Christianity. And the reason I'm saying that, there is a freedom in separating yourself away from an abusive, parent or somebody has some influence over your life. And I've seen the parallel drawn between that and distancing yourself away from a version of Christianity that is abusive in some ways. So when I'm asked, am I a Christian? Do I have a relationship with God is the question I ask myself. I have distanced myself from an image of God that is abusive. So in that sense, no, I'm not a Christian according to that version of God. am I seeking for a different understanding of God? Yes. I'm still in the process of trying to reimagine who God is, or removed away from the influence of mainstream Christianity. So to your point, I don't know if I'm very comfortable being labeled as a Christian, because there's a lot of baggage that comes with it. But at the same time, I still believe there's an image of God that's there that is not necessarily the same as what's projected today. And that's kind of what I'm still reaching out for.
Mm-hmm.
If I can add on to that, it's like you kind of like, it makes you filter sermons more. So like, even when I hear sometimes, I'm just like, it's like when you're on, for example, Twitter, and you see a tweet, you have to go to the comments to get some more knowledge. So it's like, when you hear certain sermons, I'm just like, where is this coming from? Is this a radio host that's not a Christian station? Like, what? Like, but then it just makes me wonder, like, is this coming from God? Is this coming from you? Like, where is this message coming from? And that's what makes it hard to like really figure out if I even want to be on that team anymore. Because it's just like, what? Who's running this team? Like, what?
That's interesting. And what you just said, who's running this team? That's powerful. I never thought of it the way you guys are thinking of it. I think because, again, I've been conditioned to believe this is the way you do it. And so, but who's to say that's the only way you can do it? And, you know, to your point, if you're separating yourself from the abusive relationship, why would you still stay attached to that? Or why would you want to be attached to that? You want something new and refreshing and fulfilling. And if it's not this, then what is it? But I never thought, until you guys said that, I never thought of it, never crossed my mind to think of it in that way. I also think that some of this is generational. Because if you look at the older generations, this is the way it is. We're Bible thumpers. You know, whatever religion you were in, that's just the way you did it. We Baptist, we Methodist, you Methodist, you Pentecostal, you Pentecostal, and that was it. And I think the generation now that has more access to look up, you know, Google it while the man's preaching. I can be looking it up and checking, fact checking.
I do that all the time. All the time.
That's a difference that I don't know if the church has been prepared for, to something you said before. Like, they don't know how to answer these questions because these are new. This is new. It's new territory for the church.
You're critiquing what you're being told in a different way.
Right.
And I think that's the power of being separated and being, I don't want to say isolated, but almost putting yourself in a cocoon to wrestle with what you have left to deal with, which you're trying to, you know, once you break out of that cocoon. It's funny, I was just watching a video, that's why I'm thinking about cocoons now. But once you break out of it, you're like, okay, now I see the world in a different way because I see myself in a different way, right? And I think that's the benefit. The way you broke it down was just so nuanced, like being labeled, being attached, being a part, being considered a part of, rather. Like, I would still consider myself a Christian, but I completely tried to show another side of this, what was deemed the oppressive, the abusive side of Christianity, right? I just appreciate the way you nuanced it and sort of filtered that conversation.
And that's kind of what keeps the foot in the door for Christianity, because it's just like, here I am trying to like distance myself, but then it's just like, is this healthy? Am I going to be strong enough to be by myself in terms of separating from a church? Like, because a lot of people do treat the church as if that's their a lifeline accountability partner. So it's like, and it's having family that are so religious still, or, you know, that are in the church, it's kind of like, it does make you, am I the heathen of the family? Like, and it's just really difficult to, you know, be confident on your journey, I'll say.
I would openly say that. I would tell my brother, who went to church far before I did, I was just like, I'm a heathen, I don't do that. I'm going to eat spaghetti. That was me.
But then I also think, you know, to the importance of this conversation that we're having, if you don't have any connection, how can you impact change? It's easy to leave something and say that was a hot mess, but, you know, you still have a lot of loved ones and friends that are a part of the church. And how are we, you know, sharing why we left or why we're not there, or how are we impacting the growth? And how do you influence change? If I can influence change in my job, in my career, in my community, should I not care about the people I left at church that are still jumping around for 8 hours? Like, you know, like, should I not? Or is it up to them to find their own enlightenment? You know what I mean? I don't know. So it's stuff that we still haven't eaten. Well, there's always more questions to ask, but.
So for me to kind of answer that question, the way that I see it is if they want to go around and shout for 8 hours, that is how they experience Christianity, and that's okay. And the way that I experience it is I don't go to church. So I think a part of my generation specifically, we are very much like, do your own thing. Don't come in my space. I won't come in yours. And that's kind of how I am with the church. It's like, in my head, I'm like, I don't need to save them. If they want to come out here, they'll come out here eventually, like I did. So that's why I'm just kind of like.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, do you. Have fun.
You.
Go be great.
Yeah, go be great. Absolutely.
Thank you all for listening with me. I hope you learned something just like I learned something. Stay tuned for the next episode.
It's not, people didn't leave because they want to go sin. They left because either they were hurt by someone in the church, they were hurt by something, they had questions that never got answered, or, you know, and there's some that just want to go sin. But you don't know because you didn't ask.